Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch, and we have a lot to talk about again this week. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms has been completely previewed now. We know all the cards in the set, and some of those cards are having an impact on card prices currently in the secondary market. You're going to see that sprinkled throughout the video today. The key driver, though, this week continues to be the impact Modern Horizons 2 has had on the Modern format, as well as some other formats. Quickly before we get into it, though, just a fast reminder, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use that Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pick up Modern Horizons 2 products there, or any number of other things that they have on their website. Remember, orders over $100 and orders that only consist of singles will give you free shipping in the United States. Also, whenever you use the promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated, so thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We are going to begin with the Standard Legal Spotlight. Not a lot to talk about in the world of Standard today, just one card as a matter of fact. Again, in this video, we do have a $2 threshold. We're not going to discuss any cards that are moving less than $2 up or down. And we're also not going to discuss those handful of cards that are being really egregiously market manipulated. But beyond all that, let's see what's happening in Standard. The one card in this section is Grim Tutor, the copy from Starter 1999. It goes down $462 this week to $96.97. This continues to lose more value. Initially, it started losing value back when it was reprinted in Core Set 2021. Finally, now this is below $100 again. It is a tutor, so it does continue to see Commander play in various builds, old and new. And that quickly brings us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight, where we're going to look at Pioneer legal cards that are moving the most this week, both up and down. Let's check out the cards losing value first. Hellkite Tyrant. This is the copy from Commander 2016. It goes down $2.11 this week to $15. This was reprinted in Commander 2021, and of course, much like the previous card we just saw, has been pretty soft ever since that reprint. Now, with that being said, this is a highly played Commander card, though, and it has been seeing more play recently in Ragavan Nimble Pilferer decks. Plus, when you look at Adventures in the Forgotten Realms alongside the new Commander decks that are coming out with it, there is a lot of themes that this card could play into very well. There's treasure token themes in there, dragon tribal themes, as well as an equipment theme. I am curious to see what this card does within the next few months. I do expect it to stabilize, maybe even start to go up a little bit. Next, we have Liliana Heretical Healer from Magic Origins. This goes down $2.11 to $20.80. And even though it is going down a little this week, it does still see a lot of Commander play. Very solid card there. And it is seeing more play now in Karth the Lion builds there. Llanowar Waste, the original copy from Apocalypse, goes down $2.17 to $8.79 this week. This has been kind of up and down recently. It's been moving gradually, so it hasn't always made these videos. This week, though, it does drop over $2. Having said that, it is still a big Commander mana-based card. It's in a lot of builds there, old and new. Speaking of big Commander cards, Cyclonic Rift. Look at this. 2 copies going down in value. Return to Ravnica down $2.11 to $31.28. Double Masters down $2.22 to $30.01. So sure, this does see a little modern play in Mono Blue Tron. However, you know this better as a very popular Commander staple. Shows up all the time in a lot of builds, old ones, new ones. I think this is an indicator that a lot of people are focused right now on the modern format. For a very long time, the majority of the focus has been on Commander. I don't think Commander is becoming less of a popular or played format or anything like that. But the market can be a little fickle when it comes to where people's attention is at any given moment. This card most likely will quickly stabilize and start creeping up again shortly. As foretold, this goes down $2.83 this week to $20.91. This saw some big jumps back when we saw the Modern Horizons 2 previews. Now that we are starting to see the modern format take shape, yes, this is seeing play, but maybe not as much as some people anticipated. Some of the decks where you think you would see this card are not always playing it nowadays because of all the cascade effects they're trying to get in there. Shardless Agent, Violent Outburst. There are decks that are going in that direction very strongly as opposed to using As Foretold. However, this card is still seeing play. You're going to find this in the Glimpse Cascade decks typically. Now in Commander, this is a card that can still show up in various builds there. Not necessarily a huge card in that format, but it is around. Sliver Hive Lord for Magic 2015, the last card going down in this section. It is down $2.86 to $27. Sometimes this is a commander and a sliver build, but more often you see this as part of the 99. Those decks did become very popular recently when Sliver Legion was reprinted. Now they're starting to cool off again. Alright, first card going up in value is Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth from Ultimate Masters. It goes up 248 this week to 34.39. This does see a lot of play in Pioneer. This is in Rakdos Pyromancer and more. Modern, it's in Yawgmoth Sacrifice, Hell's Kitchen, and more there. This also gets Legacy and Vintage play. Plus, it is a big commander card in many decks, old and new. Remember, Cabal Coffers, this card's partner in crime and commander, was just reprinted in Modern Horizons 2. Oh, Darksteel Forge from Plane Chase. This goes up 249 to 22.99. It was climbing, then it took a big dip last week. Rebounds a little bit this week. Solid commander card, though, seeing more play now in Zabaz, the Glimmerwasp builds there. Finale of Devastation. This goes up 287 this week to 43.99. This is in Modern Devoted Devastation, of course, but now it is showing up in one of those newer Modern builds, and that is Hell's Kitchen. That's why it's moving like this right now. This is also getting a lot more commander play in builds around Chatterfang Squirrel General and Lana's Cryptozoologist. Next is Spell Swindle. This is the copy from the list, and it was just added with Modern Horizons 2 there. It goes up $2.99 to $7.73, trying to find its price point. Still a little inflated right now, but this is a very good commander card. It is seeing a little more play in Lana's builds as well. But the reason I think this is hot currently falls back to Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a focus on treasure tokens in that set. There is a commander deck that has a treasure token focus as well, but it is a Rakdos deck, so blue doesn't fit there. Kolaghan's Command, a couple copies here. Mystery Booster goes up $2.17 to $13.99. Dragons of Tarkir goes up $3.71 to $15.99. Another highly played card. In Pioneer, this is in Niv to Light, Rakdos Pyromancer, and more. Modern, this is in Rakdos and Mardu mid-range builds. That's the main reason it's going up right now. Those are seeing a good amount of play in this new Modern meta. This is also in Grixis Death Shadow there, Junt, and more. Plus it gets a little legacy play and some commander play too. And the last card in this section is Spire Bluff Canal from Kaladesh. It goes up $5.67 to $34.99. Now, we saw this card spike very aggressively 2 weeks ago. Last week it retracted a bit. Now it is rebounding already. This is a card that has picked up more play since Modern Horizons 2 came out. First, though, let's talk about Pioneer. You'll find this in Is It Phoenix and Is It Prowess there. In Modern, there are 4 copies of this card in a lot of builds. It is a big mana-based card right now in the format. You're going to find this in Blitz, Is It Spells, Living End, Jeskai Stoneblade, Is It Delver, which is very similar to Is It Spells, but it runs Delver of Secrets, of course, and much more in that format. Also, it's a great mana-based card for lots of commander decks, again, old and new. And now it's time for the Modern Legal Spotlight. Again, a lot happening within this format just because of the big shakeup that just occurred. Let's look at the cards going down in value first. Liliana of the Veil from Modern Masters 2017. Now, this card has been very turbulent. It goes down this week $4.94 to $99.59. This does continue to see Modern play, though, in Junt, sometimes Rakdos midrange, and more. This also gets a little legacy play. Plus, this is getting some additional commander play as well now in those Karth builds. I think the reason it's a little soft, though, could be just simply because it hasn't seen as much play as some anticipated prior to Modern Horizons 2 coming out. The worldwide copy of Stoneforge Mystic goes down $5.23 this week to $75.06. Now, this card has been seeing an increase in Modern play since Modern Horizons 2 came out, but it also has been spiking for a number of weeks now, so it's not too surprising to see the retraction here. Let's talk about Modern first. Stoneblade builds have been doing very well in this new Modern meta. The Orzhov ones right now may be seeing the most play, followed closely, though, by Jeskai. There's others out there, too. This is also in Hammer Time, Death and Taxes, and more there. In Legacy, this is in Death and Taxes, Maverick, Stoneblade builds there, too, and more. This also gets a good amount of commander play. It's in various builds in that format. And like I alluded to earlier, it could be seeing more play there in the future due to Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and that support you see there for equipment strategies. This also could be a good upgrade to one of the new commander decks, Aura of Courage. Sulphurous Springs, the 10th edition copy. This has been going up a lot recently, retracting now this week. It goes down $5.80 to $21.63. Gets a lot of commander play and mana bases of different builds. Flooded Strand from Onslaught. This is kind of interesting. This is the only Onslaught fetch land that is losing value this week. The other 4 all going up in value. You're going to see them later in the video. But this one is down $8.05 this week to $78.30. Now, when it comes to fetch lands in general, these ally fetch lands are getting hot again because there are a lot of players trying to build new modern decks or upgrade old ones due to the changes in the meta. When it comes to the enemy ones, they were just reprinted in Modern Horizons 2, and for the most part, they have been pretty soft this week. They're not necessarily bottoming out or anything because of the demand, but overall, currently, they're at least losing some amount of value. When it comes to gameplay, you're going to find these all over the place in Modern, Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. Another 5-color sliver going down in value. Sliver Legion from Future Sight goes down 842 to 6554. And of course, this has been soft ever since it was reprinted in Time Spiral Remastered. It did rebound a little bit last week, but this week it is dropping heavily again. You can find this in Commander Sliver decks, sometimes as a Commander, but usually part of the 99 of those builds. And the last card going down in value is one that spiked wildly last week. This is Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. It goes down 1292 to 3848. Now, the reason it did spike is because of the increased modern play it's seeing in this new meta. Many times this will be in Rakdos midrange, supporting Ragavan Nimble Pilferer there. This also can show up in some mono-red decks running Ragavan as well. Additionally, this is seeing increased commander play in Ragavan decks there too. On top of that, I've seen this in some early commander builds around a new Adventures in the Forgotten Realms card. That is Zalto Fire Giant Duke. First card going up in value is Engineered Explosives, and with everybody trying to build new modern decks or upgrade their current ones, you're seeing two types of cards that tend to be moving the most. Lands, because people need mana bases, and a lot of sideboard cards, because they do have to think about how they're going to craft their sideboard to deal with this new meta. This card is a perfect example of a good sideboard card that is strong in this meta, and there could be a lot of players that need to pick it up now. This also gets a good amount of legacy play and a little commander play. Ultimate Masters goes up $3.53 this week to $15. Double Masters up $6.03 to $16.99. Fifth Dawn goes up $7.48 to $23.99. And the Modern Masters copy goes up $7.84 to $19.50. There's a lot of Modern Horizons 2 packs being opened, but still, some cards can't be kept down because of the amount of play they're seeing. Here's an example, Endurance. It goes up $7.86 to $31.01. You're going to find this one in 5-color elementals in Modern, Yawgmoth's Sacrifice. Sometimes this is an Amulet Titan, Crashing Footfalls, or Soul Herder. Other places too in the format. In Legacy, this is already in many Snow Miracles builds, Knight of the Reliquary and other decks there. In Vintage, it's in Sultai Midrange. Commander 2, this is jumping into a lot of builds old and new. Still 2 copies of Kataki War's Wage climbing this week. Modern Masters goes up $4.37 to $14.95. Saviors of Kamigawa goes up $7.89 to $20. Here's another example of a sideboard card that is spiking. Many decks in this new modern meta are leaning a little bit harder on artifacts. This is good against Urza's Kitchen, Hell's Kitchen, Affinity, Hardened Scales, and more. This also sees a little vintage and some commander play too. And here's a mana base card going up. It is one of those Onslaught fetch lands, Wooded Foothills. It goes up $10.57 to $91.44. And another one, Polluted Delta from Onslaught, up $11.40 to $117.97. And now we have another really big Modern Horizons 2 card. This is Murktide Regent, up $12.03 to $30.38. This is seeing a ton of play in a lot of places. In Modern, it's in Is It Spells, Is It Delver, Is It Control, Is It Phoenix? This also gets a lot of legacy play. It's in Is It Intimer Delver there, Jeskai Standstill, Dimir Death Shadow, sometimes 4-color Control or Esper Control, and it can see a little commander play too. This is a dragon as well, and like I mentioned earlier, there is support for dragons in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Shizo Death Storehouse from Champions of Kamigawa is our final card in this section. It is jumping up $27.14 to $55.99. Now, this is in some of the Rakdos midrange decks alongside Shinka the Blood-Soaked Keep, which we saw a moment ago. This is another card that can support Ragavan Nimble Pilferer there. Shinka the Blood-Soaked Keep did spike a little bit before this one, and it jumped up in value, already starting to go down. This one is still climbing, but I would expect it to start to retract maybe within a week or two as well. This card did get a reprint in Retail Mystery Boosters as a foil-only card. That is something that the other card did not get. This is also a very good commander card. You'll find this in Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow and much more. And that takes us to the Vintage Spotlight. Again, remember, there's always market manipulation that's going to be occurring when you start looking at the vintage market, so be careful. But I will say there's a lot less manipulation happening now compared to a few months ago, which is good news. Also, too, don't forget that the prices you're going to see in this section are very similar to what you might find on a price tracking website. Those websites are looking at average numbers of high-grade cards, and they are combining high-grade graded and high-grade raw. So when it comes to especially the older sets, you do have to rethink how you look at prices, because the price you see might be a lot lower than you're expecting if you're thinking about high-grade graded copies, but might be higher than what you're expecting if you're thinking about high-grade raw copies. Usually they do sit somewhere in the middle for the most part, but when we go through the slides today, if I do see a card where the price is not in the middle, if it's more towards one side or the other, or if there's some market manipulation going on, I will point it out. First, we have Scrubland from Revised up $7 to $384.98. Badlands from Revised up $862 to $508.30. Web, this is the copy from Unlimited. It goes up $10.24 to $69.99. Although I do think if I pulled the price of this card around the same time this week as I did last week, most likely it would have fallen off. I feel like this has been pretty stable overall. Axelrod Gunnarsson. This is the original one from Legends. It goes up $10.98 this week to $51.47. Knowledge Vault is climbing $11 to $119.99. Grim Monolith. This goes up $11.52 to $371.99. Many times you'll find this one in Legacy Karn Echoes. Popular Commander card and Combo Enabler too. This is in Urza Lord High Artificer and much more there. Retrofitter Foundry. This goes up $12.73 this week to $42.91. This has been seeing even more Legacy play since Modern Horizons 2 came out. You'll find this one in Jeskai Standstill, Azorius and Mono Blue Affinity, Ninjas, and more. Also, this gets some Commander play in various builds. Jandor's Ring, the original copy from Arabian Nights. It goes up $12.74 this week to $93.49. Mana Crypt, a couple copies here. Eternal Masters goes up $238 to $157.91. That original media promo, the book giveaway copy, it goes up $12.75 to $398.90 this week. This sees a lot of vintage and a lot of Commander play, and this is showing up now in Commander deck lists around a New Adventures in the Forgotten Realms card. That card is Xanathar Guild Kingpin. Howling Mine, the 7th edition copy, a little dry online this week. It goes up $5.33 to $14.19. The unlimited copy is up $14 to $159.99. Now, this does get a lot of Commander play. It's in various builds there. Also, too, there was a recent Secret Lair that reprinted some cards with Mark Poul art. This was one of them. Alright, from this point forward, all of the white border cards in this section are from Unlimited. This is Will O' the Wisp. It goes up $14.47 to $81.59 this week. Quick fun fact, this is being added to the list with Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Triskelion, the original Antiquities copy, up $32.07 to $249.95. Alurin, this is up $38.54 to $124.85. Now, of course, you will find this in Legacy Alurin decks. Those decks have received some support from Modern Horizons 2 in the form of Endurance and Grist the Hunger Tide. On top of that, it has seen increased Commander play in Lannis Cryptozoologist and Ave Progenitor Ooze decks. However, the real reason this card is moving as much as it is right now is due to the fact that it combos with a new card from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It is Ace Rarak the Archlich. Now, it is debatable whether this card will make it into Legacy Alurin decks, but it still could be a combo you see in Commander if nowhere else. Regardless, the fact that Alurin is a reserve-list card means it doesn't take too much to make him move. It is hard to find in good condition, and you know it's not going to be reprinted. Winter Orb, this goes up $44.18 to $236.94. Dark Pact, this goes up $52.15 to $134.50. Hazazan Tamar, this goes up $55.99 this week to $309.99. Illusionary Mask, this is up $57.58 this week to $429.95. Raging River up $77.98 to $377.48. This did go up a little bit, but again, this could have been a card that might have fallen off if I got the price at the exact same time this week as I did last week. It's been pretty stable. Wrath of God, this goes up $81.01 to $228.50. Pyramids, this is increasing $108.80 to $521.47. Shahrazad, this is up $137.89 to $899.99. However, high-grade raw copies can sell for about this price point. High-grade graded copies can go for closer to $2,000. So if anything, this price might be a little low. Gaia's Liege, this goes up $139.14 to $200. Now, that price point is between high-grade raw and high-grade graded copies, but there is a pretty extreme variance there. High-grade graded copies can sell for about $430 to $440. High-grade raw copies closer to $80 to $85. Eureka back again, up $181.03 to $1,495. And finally, we have Underground Sea. It goes up $237 this week to $2,089.99. Again, this price point that you see on the screen is a little bit closer to what you would expect to pay for a raw copy. Those can sell for about $1,800 typically in high grade. High grade graded copies in the future may cost you quite a bit more than this. And that takes us to the best of the rest. Now, we saw the cards that were moving the most when it comes to cards in the buckets that we explored. However, there's a lot of other honorable mentions that are moving at least $2, and that's what you're going to see here. For the most part, a lot of the cards here are moving at least in part because of Commander. I was calling this the Commander Spotlight, but because there is so much of a modern influence right now, I did want to be a little broader when it comes to the title of this section, and be a little broader as to which cards I include too. So let's take a look. First, we have Skull Clamp, the copy from the list. It goes up $212 to $1122. And this is going to be leaving the list when Adventures in the Forgotten Realms comes out. This is a huge Commander card. You see this thing everywhere. It is especially good, though, in a new build, Chatterfang Squirrel General. Also seeing some additional play in Grist the Hunger Tide right now in Commander. And it is equipment, so it could be getting at least a little bit of a push from those Adventures in the Forgotten Realms previews. And it could be a good upgrade to Aura of Courage as well. Craterhoof Behemoth. This is the original one from Avacyn Restored. It goes up $217 this week to $54.90. This is in Legacy Elves, and it is another highly played Commander card that happens to be especially good in Chatterfang decks. On top of that, this did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week too, which could have brought some more attention to it. Sword of Feast and Famine. Double Masters goes up $210 to $71.98. Mirrodin Besiege goes up $230 to $74.88. Now, this is another equipment card, so keep in mind this could be getting at least a little bit of a push from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, but the reason it's been hot recently is because of Modern. You're going to find this in Stoneblade builds there. Most frequently, this one shows up in the Jeskai ones. Also, it's getting more Commander play now in Ragavan builds, and I am seeing this in some early deck lists around Xanathar Guild Kingpin, which we saw earlier. And above and beyond all that, this got not one, but two different Command Zone podcast mentions this week in two different videos. Altar of Dementia. This is the original copy from Tempest. It goes up $246 to $1424. This is in Legacy Hogak. It is also another highly played Commander card. Seeing more play now in new builds like Chatterfang and Grist. Also, it was mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week as a card that could be good with a new legendary creature from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. That is Orcus, Prince of Undeath. Next, we do have another mana-based card. It is Twilight Mire, the copy from Double Masters. It goes up $249 to $1358, and this is in Yawgmoth Sacrifice decks in Modern. Also, it is a big Commander mana-based card as well. Seeing more play now in Chatterfang, Karth, and Grist. Another Onslaught fetch land with Bloodstained Mire. It goes up $271 to $89.99. Minamo, School at Water's Edge from Champions of Kamigawa. This goes up $276 to $24.97. This also got a reprint as a retail mystery booster foil only card. And it is starting to show up in Modern Merfolk decks, which of course did get a push from Modern Horizons 2 as well. Plus it does see a good amount of Commander play, getting a little more play now in Lannis and Garth One-Eye builds. Beacon of Creation up $276 this week to $28.24. This is getting more Commander play now in Chatterfang as well as Grist. Plays very well with Yavimaya Cradle of Growth from Modern Horizons 2. Mitotic Slime. This is the one from Plane Chase 2012 this week. It goes up $283 to $5, and this is seeing increased Commander play in Chatterfang, as well as Ave Progenitor Ooze builds, plus there is some Ooze support coming in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. And the last Onslaught fetch land, Windswept Heath. This one's going up $286 to $87.99. Sword of Fire and Ice, Darksteel up $267 to $62.99. Double Masters goes up $287 to $58.85. Now here we have yet another equipment card that is very powerful, but again, this one has been moving up because of Modern recently. Stoneblade builds, you'll find this, Death and Taxes. Legacy, it's in Death and Taxes and more there. Increased Commander play too in Ragavan and Zabaz builds. Plus it did get a Command Zone podcast mention this week too. Another land card getting picked up in a lot of new Modern decks. This is Fiery Islet. It goes up $305 this week to $28. In Modern, you'll find this in Blitz. I think that's the deck that's pushing this the most right now. It's also in Izzet Spells, though, Izzet Delver, Burn, and much more. This also sees a little Legacy play, and it is a good Commander mana-based card as well for decks old and new. Ensnaring Bridge, the original Stronghold copy, goes up $310 this week to $33.10. There are typically 4 of these in the new modern Lantern of Insight Eggs deck. This is also found in Tron builds, Gruul midrange, and more there. Additionally, this sees Legacy, Vintage, and Commander play, even seeing more Commander play now in some Karth decks. Amulet of Vigor from World Wake, it goes up 311 to 29.49. This did get a reprint as a retail mystery booster foil only card, interestingly enough. This is in the modern Amulet Titan deck, which is still very good in this new modern meta. Also gets some Commander play too. Squee, Goblin Nabob. This is the copy from Mercadian Masks. It goes up 319 to 17.74. This is getting increased Vintage play now because of Modern Horizons 2 bringing some cards to that format. You'll find this in a new Hollow One build there. This also has been getting more Commander play too because of that set. You'll find this in Asmarano, Martika, Diced, and Akulda card decks. Plus, beyond all that, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is giving some support to the Goblin Tribe too. Here's just one example. This card happens to be a Goblin Lord. Hobgoblin, Bandit Lord. Knights of Thorn. This goes up 319 to 25.99, and this does get a tad bit of Commander play, but really moving mostly because of its status on the reserve list. This has been hard to find in good condition online recently. Lord of Atlantis, the 4th edition copy up 256 to 1872. The Time Spiral copy goes up 324 to 29.99. This is in Modern and Legacy Merfolk. Both of those got a push from Modern Horizons 2, and it has seen increased Commander play in Svelin of Sea and Sky. Chalice of the Void. This is another popular modern sideboard option in a lot of builds. Also gets Legacy, Vintage, and a little Commander play. Masters 25 is up 236 this week to 44.18. The Time Spiral Remastered copy is up 334 to 41.97. Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas from Mirrodin Besieged. It goes up 347 to 1975. In Modern, this is now showing up in the sideboards of Urza's Kitchen. Legacy, this is in a new Dimir version of Painter's Grindstone. Plus, it gets some Commander play too. Earlier, we discussed the treasure token support in Adventures of the Forgotten Realms. Some of those new cards could make this a better card in the future, at least in Commander, if nowhere else. Here's another Ooze. This is Necrotic Ooze from Scars of Mirrodin. It goes up $3.49 this week to $6.97. It does currently get a good amount of Commander play, but this is getting more play now in those Grist builds. But the main reason this is moving as much as it is right now is due to the fact that it combos with a card previewed from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. That card is Asmodeus the Archfiend. I thought for a minute I would not be able to use my one per video because we're getting towards the end here. But alas, here is Primal Beyond. It is a Morningtide rare that is yet to be reprinted. It goes up $3.49 this week to $13.50. And if you watch these videos regularly, you know that cards from this time period of Magic were open less because there was a recession in the game. So when people pay attention to these rares, if they haven't been reprinted especially, they tend to spike. So why are people paying attention to this one now? Well, this does get a little Commander play, but now it has become part of the mana base in a new Modern build, 5-color Elementals. Arcbound Reclaimer. This is getting more Commander play now in Zabaz decks. It goes up $3.58 this week to $5.62. Alright, you can't blame Commander for this one because it's not legal there. Emrakul, the Eon's Torn. The list copy goes up $2.37 to $49.94. That copy did leave the list after Keldheim. Modern Masters 2015 goes up $3.07 to $49.99. Rise of the Eldrazi up $3.13 to $54.99. And Ultimate Masters goes up $3.58 to $50.80. In Modern, sometimes this is in Amulet Titan, Enchantress, Dice Factory, and more. But the reason it's jumping like it is now is because it is part of a new Modern build. There are 4 copies of this in the Glimpse Cascade builds. In Legacy, you'll find this in Sneak and Show, Omnitel, Mono Green Cloud Post, sometimes Doomsday. This also got a Tolarian Community College mention this week as well. Aethersworn Canonist. This is seeing more play in Modern Affinity, Legacy Azorius Affinity. Those are 2 decks that came about after Modern Horizons 2 dropped. This is also in some other Legacy builds like Death and Taxes, sometimes Jeskai Standstill, and more. Also, it's getting increased Commander play in Zabaz decks. Double Masters goes up $2.26 to $9.69, Shards of Alara up $3.48 to $11.47, and Modern Masters goes up $3.61 to $12.02. Armageddon, that 5th edition copy drying up a little bit online this week. It goes up $3.64 to $9.49. This does get some Commander play, though, in various builds. Glimmer Void, the one from Mirrodin, the original, still going up in value, up $3.99 to $15.14. This is in Modern Affinity, Lantern of Insight Eggs, Urza builds, and has seen increased Commander play in Zabaz. A couple copies of Shattering Spree still going up in value, moving for the same reasons that the Kataki Wars Wage cards were moving. This is a great sideboard card in Modern for decks running red as opposed to white. Also, it does continue to see Legacy and Vintage play. In Commander, many times you see this in fast mono red decks that don't rely on mana rocks like Ragavan, for example. Guild Pack goes up $4 to $18.99. The Guilds of Ravnica is a Guild Kit copy, goes up $4.52 to $19.50. Blood Moon. This card is seeing a lot of play in the new Modern meta. You'll find this in Blitz, Enchantress, and much more. This also continues to see a good amount of Legacy play and Commander play. It is getting more Commander play now in Ragavan builds as well. Modern Masters goes up $2.12 to $16.34. And that original expensive copy from the Dark goes up $4.75 to $99.75. Necropotence. Now, this is the copy from Deckmasters Garfield vs. Finkel. It only came in foil. Much harder to find in good condition online. It goes up $5.04 to $118.50. This is in Vintage Doomsday. Also gets a lot of Commander play, even more play now in those Chatterfang decks. Mox Diamond from Stronghold goes up $5.16 this week to $628.26. In Legacy, this is in Knight of the Reliquary, lands, and more. You find this in a lot of different Commander decks too, and it is showing up now in some early deck lists around Xanathar Guild Kingpin. Intuition from Tempest up $6.50 to $188. This is in Legacy, Omnitel, Sneak and Show. Also gets a good amount of Commander play. Cavern of Souls, the copy from the list that did join the list with Keldheim. It goes up $3.73 to $93.07. Modern Masters 2017 goes up $6.59 this week to $94.66. This is in a ton of builds in a lot of different formats. Modern, it's in Amulet Titan, Humans, 5-color Elementals, Eldrazi Tron, Merfolk, Spirits, Goblins, and more. This also gets Legacy and a little bit of Vintage play. Plus, it is a highly played Commander card. It's in a lot of decks, including the new Chatterfang deck, which is very popular. Plus, this could be getting a push from some other outside forces. Recently, a number of creatures became Phyrexian creatures for the first time. That could be pushing this a little bit. Also, like I've been mentioning throughout the video, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is lending its support to some tribes as well. Crime and Punishment. This goes up $7.54 this week to $14.99, and this is another card that is showing up now in some modern sideboards in this new meta. It is yet to be reprinted, so it has been increasing pretty quickly. Many times you'll find this in the sideboard of the very popular Yawgmoth Sacrifice deck. Also, it's in the sideboard of the Rock and more. Additionally, you can see a tad bit of Commander play too. And that brings us to the Premium Spotlight. I say this every week, but there's so many premium cards spiking, I can't possibly talk about all of them. We'd be making videos all week for hours upon hours. However, each time I like to point out at least a couple cards that feel like they're moving naturally with the market. In other words, they're going up because of gameplay or a preview card or an announcement of some kind. Not just moving because they dried up in the marketplace or got bought out or something like that. But do know, premium cards can be rare, they can be hard to find in good condition, and there can be market manipulation around them, so be careful. This week I picked two to talk about. The first one we just saw, Crime and Punishment, the foil copy from Dissension. It goes up $38.09 to $59.16. Now in this section, like the vintage section, I show you prices very similar to what you might see on a price tracking website. And then again, I'll point out any discrepancies that I see when it comes to true sales. In this case, I have not seen these selling for this price point yet, but I do think they're getting there quickly. I have seen high-grade foils sell for about $20, but that was before the spike really took hold. Now that the non-foils are selling for about $15, I don't think $60 is an unrealistic price for this card. Maybe it won't get there immediately, but I do think this is a situation where sellers are pricing this a little higher to stay ahead of the spike, and then they may take a reasonable offer that's lower. Similar story here, another card that only has one foil. It is Shattering Spree from Guild Pact. It goes up $67.14 to $99.99. Now, when you look at recent sales, these are hard to find. I did see one sell for $25 not too long ago, but again, that was before the card really started to take off. Now, the $100 price point might be a little bit high, but I don't think these are going to continue to sell for $25. Perhaps eventually they even get to the $100 price point, but again, I think this is a case where sellers are just trying to stay ahead of the spike. All right, with that being said, that does it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. If you're still here, thanks for sticking with me. I always appreciate that. Until next time, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.